In this daily drop, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, aka Sora. So let's go. All right, fine people of the interwebs, whether you're real or not, today we're going to talk about AI, generative AI, machine learning. We're going to talk about a company called OpenAI, which I sure hope doesn't become our Skynet. But today is not about discussing or debating the ethical or moral sides to artificial intelligence. It's to talk about Sora, because no doubt you have read about, you have heard about, you have seen what has happened in just this small period of time when it comes to generative AI content. And of course, we've had Midjourney and we've had Runway and we've had all of these other things that have existed for, again, a very short period of time. And now OpenAI has released this text to video leap forward in terms of generative content called Sora, S-O-R-A. And again, I'm sure you've seen it. I'll put a link to it. We'll be looking at clips from it in today's episode. But what I want to talk about is, at least at this moment in time, how I think this is going to affect what we do producing content, video production, filmmaking, so on and so forth. It's very clear to me after seeing the clips, at least in my mind, is a big question mark for me. Should I have bought this drone? Was that a good purchase? And did that make a lot of sense? The answer is probably yes and no. It's probably no in terms of being able to generate very short, well, maybe very long clips in the future of very specific places that are generic. So to me, the biggest industry in the very short-term future that's going to get affected by generative AI, which already is stock imagery, stock video, anything that is more generic to visually represent a particular industry, a particular trade, a craft when it comes to seeing something happening on screen. And that also includes locations and places. So we have the reality that it's going to change that industry markedly. And it's going to be our job to figure out how to use that technology and then navigate the ethical and legal parts of it, where what's being generated we feel good about using for our client work, so on and so forth. Where I don't think right now generative AI is going to be a replacement is when you're creating specific content with specific talent, because you need to shoot something with an athlete, with a celebrity, with just a regular actor doing something very, very specific, because that's the big part of this conversation that we have to have, which is that we can generate things now visually, but can we manipulate them? Can we edit them? Yes, in iterations we can do it, but not the way we can take content and say, okay, we've shot an interview, we've shot B-roll, we've shot GVs or general views, we've shot inserts, we've shot all of this stuff, and we're putting together our jigsaw puzzle, and then we don't like that, or our client doesn't like it, and we have to move things around. So it's a yes and no to things like drones. It's a yes in terms of stock imagery, video, and stills. And then it really just becomes a bigger conversation about whether generative AI will replace video production and filmmaking. And in the short to, well, I wouldn't say even middle sort of mid-future, is that even, are those words? In the short term, not a problem at all for us, because well, first of all, we're creators. We like to create things. And if you look at this platform alone, YouTube, and you look at the amount of content that's created, the amount of voices that are creating content, that type of content can't be replaced by AI. content will exist on YouTube that is created using AI, generative AI, and there will be, of course, AI-based, we'll say talent. People who are behind the scenes creating content using these tools because they're only going to get better in the future. And they're going to be scripting things and they're going to be feeding scripts. And that type of content is going to be really interesting because that is probably going to be doable in the near future. But I think the idea of having your own voice, of saying something, of communicating, and then also being able to create content that can be manipulated easily. Not the same definition of manipulate. That's the scary part. That's the ethical, moral part of generative AI. But just the ability to shape what story you're telling and how you're doing that, I think that that's where we have to get to a point, which we probably will, where we're generating content using tools like these, probably in a slightly different way than text to video. And then they basically just become assets. So we are feeding a script to something, and then we have virtual actors, and then we start to use those in an environment like an NLE where we start to move things around. So it's all going to happen. Don't even think that it's not going to happen. But I think there are so many people in this world who want to have a voice, who want to communicate, that want to say things, that the idea that in any near-term future that a platform like YouTube or a different platform is going to get replaced by the vast majority of the content being generative AI, I don't see that because we're drawn to personalities and characters. That said, the clip of the older man in the cafe, he's not an old man, but an older man, sitting there with that close up, it's almost like there's life in that person. Now, I know there's a catch light, but it's eerie to me that even today, we're that close to getting fooled. And it's going to go fast. It's going to be rapid. So hold on tight. If you are in this industry, video production and filmmaking, use these as tools. Figure out where they're going to fit into what we're doing. Again, my personal feeling is our voices aren't going to be replaced anytime soon by an overnight replacement of generative AI content. I still want to talk about things. I still want to figure out how this all evolves. And we may find out in the journey that the big tools that are being used for things like virtual production may get leapfrogged and everything may be done with this connected to a camera, eventually just this. Who knows? We're in for something. I think what I'm seeing is pretty remarkable, and it's only going to get better. I'm sure that my jaw is going to drop again in 6 to 12 months when I see what the next version of this is. I've got a lot of work to do to figure all this out. Some of you do as well. Some of you may be jumping ship. I'm kind of in for the ride to figure this thing out. I don't think I have a choice. All right. Don't forget to. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.